jazz. We got Miss Foster in the building. Checking out the show. Welcome to the Journal. Hey, Mr. Sanders.
Yes, sir.
And we went from a little bit all that jazz to nothing. See how Ron be doing that?
You know what?
And see how he be just dumping us off, man?
Yeah,
He just dump us off.
Look, you know, I come to realize we want to welcome you to VoxWave.com, Mr. Hall Street Journal Report. The phone number here, 240-719-2560.
Did you hear that? 240-719-2560. We appreciate y'all for jumping on the show. We came all the way down tonight, Mr. Sanders. I drove all the way from Baltimore, Maryland.
I want to say
50 minutes, man.
I want to say
in the harbor.
I want to say that it's an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this program with Mr. Ron, the engineer.
Look, they over there, engineer over there playing no music.
But I want to say...
Just zero, just looking at the screen. And we just speaking in the nothingness. J.J. Holiday, what's going on? J.J. Holiday jumped on board from South Carolina. What you saying? What we saying, Mr. Sanders? I'm sorry.
I was speaking with Mr. Hall, and he mentioned to me that he's a Renaissance man. And y'all get your dictionaries and look the term up, because that's a very important term.
I don't want to talk about myself.
Well, I want to talk about you.
I don't think people want to hear about me. You know what people want to hear about?
What's that?
Themselves.
Well,
they want to talk about them. People want to talk about you know, I used to tell people, don't talk to me about you. Talk to me about me. Because that's what everybody really want to hear about. So I know this is the Hall Street Journal, and my job is, and our job is, we here to educate, edify, enlighten, and entertain. And I don't want to focus on me or self-aggrandizement. I want to talk about the community. I want to talk about what we can do. I want to talk about what's going to be edifying to the listeners. I don't want to just edify myself. I'm just a brother on a good day. That's it. That's it. We here to facilitate conversations that need to be had. So, hey, Tammy Brown Jones, J.J. Holiday, Mr. Griffin,
may I say
Foster.
Something?
Yes, sir. I know.
Okay. I want to say that like what Mr. Hall just said, it's not about me. It's about whatever we can do as a people to improve the quality of life.
Absolutely.
And not just for me. It ain't just about me. It's what we can do collectively to improve the quality of life.
Right. And so I feel like I don't want to spend 30 minutes saying it ain't about me. And then that make it about me. I don't even want to say it. I want to talk to them about them. And the story, one of the things we're going to talk about, Mr. Sanders, that I learned about recently, well, and actually I've been doing it for a while, but I learned more information about it. It's called self-directed IRAs. Have you ever heard of a self-directed IRA?
Self-directed IRA?
Self-directed IRA. Now, for those of you who are not aware, an IRA is a, how you doing, Celadon Reed? Sel, what's going on? You got to call me, Sel. I was supposed to be up there in Jersey and all that old stuff. You was coming down to Baltimore, Yeah, LaRon Land, thank you for being here. Tammy Brown Jones, again, thank you for being here. So we're talking about self-directed IRAs. Now, IRA is an individual retirement account. And this stuff has been around for a very, very long time, these individual retirement accounts. And there are, most people, they get these retirement accounts, these 401ks. Basically, what you're doing is you're saving money for your retirement, for most people. You know, they're not working with the government or whatever, even if they are. They save money for their retirement, and the government says, either I'm not going to tax you at all, I'm going to defer the taxes, or you're going to be tax free. You know, and okay, Sel, you call me tomorrow. Y'all seen? She said, I promise to call you tomorrow. So I'm gonna let y'all know if Hall Street can let y'all know if Sel called me tomorrow, because she just put it out there. So, so you can have your tax deferred bucket, your tax bucket, and your tax free bucket. But bottom line is we want the government to get out of our pockets, right? If we make our money, we don't want the government to take money from us, or we want them to take as little as possible so that they can run the government. And we know they out there buying a truckload of hammers for $1 million and doing crazy stuff with the money. The spending of the government is out of hand. We know this. And when we're trying to put together a nest egg and build something for our futures, for our retirements, to secure our families, to create wealth, to send our kids to school. Shout out to my baby girl, who I'm moving her in the dorm tomorrow at GW to start her 3rd year at George Washington University, which I cannot believe she's beginning the 3rd year already. So she's a junior, which is flossy to be when you're in college. But, you know, we got to deal with these bills and these tuitions and all that kind of stuff, and it's not easy, right? These are things that can help you move forward, and I was just studying on these things and reviewing some possibilities. And one thing that a lot of people don't know, Mr. Sanders, is that they don't have to just put the money in the mutual fund and ride the wave with the stock market. See, you put your money in the stock market, you don't know what the people, you don't know the people, you don't know what they're doing with the money, you don't know where they're investing the money half the time. You just close your eyes and cross your fingers and hope for the best. This is what most Americans are doing with their retirement account.
I learned in the early years of my life, after I learned how to set goals and invest, I learned that brothers and sisters, y'all need to be careful about who you allow to handle your money, because those thieves at the top, they know who I'm talking about. You can like me or don't like me. You know, you already got a system set up where you can rob old people, you can divert people's money where you want it to go, and when people look around and money gone and the nest egg is gone. But I put my money, I went to Ben Franklin University, I studied a little bit about financial planning, financial management, just a little bit. Put your money where, it's in different nest eggs, so that if you lose some over here, you won't lose some over here and there. You know, put the things in investments of liquidity. You know, you can liquidate those things. So when you get hungry and your family, you know, need food to eat, you can liquidate these things and you can get that money and take care of your family.
Absolutely. One of the things that people do, not to jump in, is that the point of a self-directed IRA is that you can take control of where you put your funds, and you can actually pool multiple IRAs from different members of the family that are all able to put money aside, and you can buy property, you can buy the debt on property, or notes as they refer to them. You can invest in property together with family, with friends, and when you earn money, say for instance you buy a property and you fix it up and you sell it, the profits you don't have to pay any taxes on, because it's not you that did it, it's not the family members that did it, it's your IRAs, your collective IRAs. They're just like another person taking action, and that person, the IRA, does not have to pay taxes. Yet it's an account, but it's for your benefit. So it's a powerful strategy that I saw lots of people who are using these strategies. A lot of people who don't know about it, they don't know that they can do it, but they can sign up with certain companies that will allow you to take those retirement funds that you presently just only see as on a statement that you get from the Vanguard or somebody, and turn that into an investment in other activities that you have more say about what you put it into, and have more clarity about what's happened with your investment capital.
Also, there are some insurance policies which has to do with income protection, a wage protection, some people call it. If you check with certain insurance companies, they can, give you information where you pay a certain amount, and if you were to be sick and cannot work for 5 years, they'll give you that money so that you won't lose your house, you won't lose your car. It's called income protection, because I had it years ago, a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of mine, he sold insurance, and he told me about it, but a lot of people are not even aware of income protection or wage protection insurance. And insurance people don't tell you. And you got to stumble up on these things to protect you and your family when you run into sickness and injury, auto accident, and you can't work for 4, 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
We need information for our young people to get started early. And it's best to buy your insurance while you're in good health, because when you are physically unable, after you had operations or sickness and all this, insurance companies don't want to insure you. They will insure you when you are doing well. They take all your money as much as they can, but when you had an auto accident, they're ready to drop you. Insurance people, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Well, they say insurance is the biggest racket in all of corporate America. The insurance companies own the bank. It was insurance companies that they were first said were too big to fail. What's going on? Paul Camp, Amber Patterson, Terry Coleman, Michael Smith, Kanika Westbrook, Alonzo Swift. What's up, cousin Lonnie? So a lot of people checked in with what we're talking about, but it's interesting that you said that. We mentioned insurance because this is another topic we're going to cover, which is called being your own banker, where a lot of people have used a technique that allows them to operate through a whole life insurance policy, which I generally I don't like. But now they have there's this other type of whole life insurance policy that allows you to essentially fund that policy and then operate as your own bank. So these are some additional concepts
like that
a lot of people do. You become your own bank, and essentially all the money that your bank would have earned in interest and things of that nature from your natural activity with the bank, those earnings become earnings that stay with you and inure to your benefit and for your retirement, and you can essentially borrow money from yourself, from your own bank. You have to fund it, obviously, but these are some of the things that we're going to get involved with, spending a lot more time doing education, because one of the points of the Hall Street Journal is to take the information that's out there that, you said we have to stumble upon it. Take that information, hey Melissa, take that information and start explaining it in layman's terms, in the terms that people can understand, so that they can learn these strategies, and when they learn these strategies, they can employ them to the benefit of their families and the creation of wealth. So we do this Monday night show, the Monday Mayhem version of the Hall Street Journal, but I want to announce tonight that we are going to start doing broadcasts from on Facebook, at least from the Baltimore headquarters. You still get the Monday Mayhem edition on Monday nights, but we're going to really do some presentations that are focused on the education side, that are explaining what's the difference between the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA, which traditional is pre-tax and the Roth is after tax, and how to use these different vehicles in concert with each other. We're going to break down the concept of insurance. There's life insurance, there's health insurance, as Mr. Sanders talked about. There's property insurance, there's casualty insurance. You have to understand what all 4 types of insurance are, which ones are there to indemnify you, and which ones are things that you can utilize as a wealth creation tool. So there's a lot that we want to bring to the table. We're going to start bringing on various professionals from different industries, from the insurance industry, from the real estate industry, teaching people about notes. I got a great education about how you utilize notes. You know, what is a note? A note is an IOU. Guess what? If you are listening to this show, I can guarantee you've been trafficking in notes. You've been using notes. And you want to know where most likely you got a note real close to you, close by, just dig in your pocket and pull out $1. Pull out a piece of U.S. currency and you will see that it is a federal treasury, what's that word? Note. This is nothing more than a note. This is the IOU. You heard of your mortgage note. You heard of your car note. A note is nothing but a promise to pay. And now you can have that promise to pay tied to the faith and confidence in the U.S. government. You can have that note tied to I will take your house if you don't pay me. You can have that note tied to my confidence in your signature and your goodwill and your good credit. But they're all nothing but debts, and you can traffic in notes. And people are making phenomenal amounts of money trafficking in notes. If I can create debt, I can literally print money. And so there's a science to note creation that we're going to get into just as an example of the type of education you're going to get on the Hall Street Journal. We can't keep calling it the Hall Street Journal if we're not actively engaged in education and bringing professionals, insurance agents, mortgage professionals, real estate professionals, accountants. We're going to talk about tax strategies. We're going to talk about investment opportunities. We're going to bring people on who work with the traditional investments like bonds and stocks and things of that nature, and really break some of those things down, teach people how to analyze what's going on with these mutual funds or stocks. But we're also going to look at some of the unconventional things like cryptocurrencies. There's big money being made in cryptocurrencies right now, like trading currency pairs, foreign exchange. That's a new area that people need to get into. So I'm just kind of, tonight, Mr. Sanders, I'm just kind of like laying down the announcement that it's about to be a new day. We're still going to enjoy our Monday night show, but we're going to turn this broadcast into an ongoing place where people can gather information. And I don't say that to say that I have all the answers. I do not have all the answers, but I have a willingness to pursue the answers on behalf of the public. And my goal and our goal is to be fantastic facilitators of conversations that need to be had. Because we can have a lot of conversations about a lot of craziness, about a lot of cuckoo, on a lot of places. We talking about, whatever, Nicki Minaj's feud with whoever and Drake's feud with whoever, and a bunch of stuff that ain't got nothing to do with the price of tea in China and your life, your kids' life, education, and your future. And we put a lot of time and energy into this stuff, but we need to have a place that people can go and just take a minute, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and just gather another nugget, a little bit of information. We're not going to do a lot of long broadcasts. We're going to do some short 2-3 minute broadcasts, get you another nugget, and then just in time, you'll continuously build your knowledge, build your understanding, and create the wealth that you want to create in your life and for your family. So we're excited to have y'all jump on board. But Mr. Sanders, I'm convicted that that's the way we need to go.
As you expressing some things, what crossed my mind is a financial advisor told me something many, many years ago, and it's this: before you pay those creditors, now watch it about going out, getting yourself head over heels in debt, where it's strangling you and you're under financial stress and all. You got to be careful. And the financial advisor told me that before you pay anybody else, pay yourself. Because a lot of our people, I'm going to say our people, a lot of our people are footing the bill for those creditors to ride around on their $500 million-dollar yachts. You're the one footing the bill. I got one charge plate, but I'm not using me as an example. But the thing is, I carry one Visa, but I was up here in debt when I had 4 and 5 and 6, and then my first wife before she passed. All those creditors with an 18 and 19% interest. I said this on the other radio program. The less money that you pay those creditors, the more money you have in your own pocket.
Absolutely. I mean, the rest of the stories, we're going to start learning how to use debt as a tool. You know, the simplified version of debt is that it's always a bad thing, but it actually is not the case. If you use it as a tool intelligently, it can forward your situation.
Right.
You know, the other word that they'll use, they'll call it debt for you. If you go to corporate America and Wall Street, they call it leverage. They won't say, are you using debt? They'll say, are you using leverage? Now, how many people understand the power of leverage? Why do they call debt leverage? Well, leverage is what allows you to move heavy objects that you otherwise might not be able to move. But if you get a little bit of leverage, you can move stuff that you can't handle without it. All right, so there's a reason why corporate America refers to debt as leverage, but when they're talking to you, they say, we don't want you to be in debt, right? But then, or it's not good for you to be in debt. No, do you use debt as a tool? What is a bond? A bond is yet another note. It's just a note from a company, a note from a municipality. It's a promise to pay from the city of D.C., a promise to pay from the United States Treasury, which is the same thing as this. What's the difference between the Treasury bond and this? It's the same thing. It's a promise to pay from the same folks, right? So you know, it's time for us to pull back the veil and have some in-depth conversations about this stuff. And we're gonna allow you to call in on Mondays, 240-719-2560, and ask detailed questions. And you know, like I said, we may not always have the answer, but we're gonna start holding ourselves accountable to gather that information. I'm gonna bring my little notepad, I'm gonna write this stuff down, and we're gonna allow people to ask questions, and we're just gonna facilitate an intelligent discussion about this information, because there are very few sources out there, and people want to learn, people want to understand how you use these tools, how you use these strategies, so you can create wealth for yourself and your family. You know, I mean, maybe I'm not the wealthiest person in the world, but you know, they say those who can do, those who can't teach. If I'm a phenomenal teacher, if I can teach you how to use Japanese candlestick chart technique, do a technical analysis of your stock portfolio, of your stock, or your trade you're looking at, or the mutual fund that your retirement funds are in, and you can get a feel for what's happening, what these people are doing with your money. Hey, I feel like I've done what I needed to do, because that allows you to gather some fundamental information and be able to take it to the next level. Melinda Brown, appreciate you for being here. James Ashley, that's my brother Jimmy. R.D. Warmack, appreciate you. Eric Peter Cooks is checking us out. So we appreciate y'all for coming on board, and we want this show to be known for the good information that folks are getting, and you're not going to have to wait till Monday. We have located the headquarters of the Hall Street Journal at the heart of the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. We are in the Inner Harbor in Baltimore, and from there, we are going to get involved more and more with real estate transactions out there. We're going to get involved with community development that's out there. Because, Mr. Sanders, I told people yesterday, you know, it can't just be about bricks and mortar development. We got to do some human development.
Thank you.
We got to help some people.
Thank you. You know, something else crossed my mind when we're talking about investments, and we're talking about notes, and we're talking about people. I like to use myself as an example, because I remember when I didn't have 2 quarters to rub together, and I was living from hand to mouth, from payday to payday, and I got tired of that. you know. And a financial advisor said something to me one time. This was 30-something years ago. You know, how can a person work in an industry for 20, 30, and 40 years, and then you ask that person, can you come up with $500 and they can't? That's sad. You don't put your best years into an agency, and you were not thinking about how you're gonna live comfortable after you retire. And a lot of people work 30 and 40 and 50 years in the federal government, private industry, and got out, and the economy, you know, everything went up. Bread, everything went up, and they can't hardly afford to live comfortable in their retirement. That's sad.
Well, it's sad, and it's the problem, but we also got to figure out the solutions. You know, I don't want to just tell them, hey, it's bad. I want to tell them how to get out of it.
I agree.
And sometimes we got to shake, you know, what we want to do is to kind of, you know, shake ourselves and do something different. You know, I saw on one of the presentations I saw this weekend is if you want to have something you never had, you got to do something that you never done. And so, you know, part of it is that we continue to do the same thing. Maybe we just need to do something different, but we need to know what the different thing is we got to do.
I agree.
And so, and there's so few.
I don't disagree.
I agree with. I'm with you. I'm not saying you do. I'm saying yes. What you're saying is true. We need more and more vehicles that we can utilize to instruct people. Because if they don't know how they could create wealth with notes, how they could tap into their personal retirement accounts and take different actions that create wealth for themselves. If they don't understand, it's one thing just to tell somebody, pay yourself first and save money, but what? So you save some money. So what? If you save a bunch of money and then you get old and stop working and spend it, you still die broke. You still die eating cat food, right? So it's not just that you save the money, it's that you take that money and you invest it in assets that will continue to produce income. So they keep telling you save money, because when you save money, where are you putting it? Who you saving it with? You saving it with them. So then that means they can pay you 2% interest, which is basically no gains after they finish taking taxes and they finish with inflation. You actually going backwards, but you saving though. But then you don't buy anything, and then they take your money and buy stuff with it, and that's how they're paying for the yacht.
Well, I can say this much for sure. Another thing I learned about putting your money in a passbook savings, those people in the banks, they take your money and invest it where they get 19, 20-some% interest and give you 2 and 3%. Now that's highway robbery, banks.
Well, it's highway robbery, but it's volunteering for highway robbery.
I agree.
Because we the ones who went and put it in the passbook savings account.
I agree.
We the ones who decided, or continue to decide, to do the same thing, expecting a different result. And we talk about political clout, it's tied to economic clout. There's a synergy between business and politics. And it's the big businesses that control the politicians. Why? Because they got a whole bunch of promises to pay.
Right.
They got a whole bunch of these treasury notes saying the government gonna give you what? I don't even know, because it's not backed by gold or anything anymore. So it's backed by full faith and confidence, which is a figment of your imagination. And so we have to start mastering this stuff and thinking outside the box. James Griffin, I want to just check this out real quick. We got Ferris Foot watching. Appreciate you for being here. Mr. Foot, good to hear from you again. James Griffin said 400 years of not being taught created that problem. You're on the right track in education, because when we know better, we should do better.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's absolutely the truth.
That's what my mother told me.
Mm-hmm.
When you know better, you do better. Now, you know, I was talking about setting goals, okay? Before I learned to set goals, I every payday, man, and after I paid the creditors, I was broke. Now, I started thinking, I said, now I got to do better than this. Set some goals, long-term goals, short-term goals. But just to set goals is not enough. You have to have a roadmap to show you how to reach those goals.
You gotta take action.
Take action.
And so, but you can't just take action. You gotta take appropriate action, because if you take inappropriate action, you hurt yourself worse. And you know, in my personal situation, as a guy who, relatively speaking, I have more information than the average person. I'm not a guru by any means, but I've done some things that most people haven't done. I've purchased $1 million buildings with no money down and walked off with $250,000 in cash. That's not something that an average person can say they've done. And I'm not saying that to congratulate myself. That's not the point, because I jacked stuff up after the fact. But the point is that we need people who have practical experience in doing things that can handle sharing the finite details of how you move forward. If you create a note, what are the processes that you need to engage in? What does the paperwork look like? How do you paper that transaction? How do you negotiate the deal? How do you understand all the components of a deal? I had someone call me today, a lady who wanted out of a property. She told me about the property. Because I've been around so many real estate deals, I immediately understood, hey, there was one piece of the puzzle she left out. And when I asked her about it, it revealed another $20,000+ that she had received. But I only knew to ask that question because I've been around the block enough. And what we need is more people who are going to take the time to mentor and help other people win. And we need more people who are not going to be afraid. William Murray, appreciate you for being here. Elizabeth Tynan, appreciate you for being here. We need more people who are not going to be afraid, to get out here and really open ourselves up and open our minds up and look to gain better and better understandings. And part of not being of learning and really expanding your mind is not being afraid to say, I don't know. Because when I say I don't know, subtextually I'm saying I believe I can know. But so many of us have been taught to or socialized to pretend that we know rather than actually know. We rather look good than be good. We rather look rich than be rich. We rather look like we understand than actually understand. And that requires us to be able and willing to be put on a hot seat and not have so much arrogance that you won't say, you know what, brother, sister, I don't understand that. And I'm going to do the same thing. My commitment, Mr. Sanders, I'm not going to snow nobody who's watching the show. If I don't have a clear understanding, I'm going to say the part I understand, and we're going to get some clarity, because that's the way we're going to grow. We're here to educate, edify, enlighten, and entertain. The first word we say is educate. So what are we teaching people? We can't keep saying that if we're not doing that, and that's what we're going to change. Katrina Trail, we appreciate you for checking us out. Jay Maverick Wells, Upward Mobile lady right there, doing what she do. Terry Coleman said definitely. This is where we got to go.
Brother, sister, if you're going in a certain direction and you're not making any headway, change your direction. Talk with someone who has the knowledge that you need in order for you to progress. You can't keep going around in circles like a dog chasing his tail,
right? Or
a person in a car spinning his wheels. You cannot continue doing that. You want to see some headway.
And that comes through education.
Education.
Hey, Jay. That comes through education. Good to see you. And that means we have to invest in our new understanding. And that's one of the things I saw in some of these events I've gone to. It's always the same thing. The person who has the information, I call them infopreneurs. They get up there and they tell you about all the money they made and all the accomplishments they've had and all the things they've done. And at the end, they be like, okay, and I got just 10 packages in the back, and it's a $7,000 value, and I'm going to give 10 away for $9.97, and they looking for 10 folks to run back and drop that $1,000, and then they going to sell you a bunch of CDs and still leave the responsibility upon you fundamentally to learn and then to implement, because how many of us have gotten out there and got a little bit of information, and then we don't act on it because we're still afraid. But I don't want you to feel bad, because it's natural to fear what you don't understand. And it's natural. But the more you gain information, understand, and take your time and learn about these things, the better we are going to do. Hey, how are you? Okay, my neighbor is on some other stuff for real, shaking my head. We need to help him. Seriously, Jay, give me a call. I think you got my number. Call me. Instant message me. Let's work it out, because we're going to start bringing people to situations and circumstances where they can resolve their problems. We're going to create more and more deal architects. That's one of the things I learned about. There's people who are bird dogs who just bring deals to the people who know what they're doing, and then if they go from a bird dog, they become a wholesaler, and then they, in real estate I'm talking, and then they go from a wholesaler to an investor, maybe, and then they graduate. But the optimal situation, the people who make the most money and do the best, are the deal architects. And to be a deal architect, you really have to understand a lot of pieces of the puzzle. Mr. William Murray said, "I'm a personal friend of Mr. Sanders, the war hero in Vietnam. We grew up together. We both served in Vietnam. We want to thank you and Mr. Sanders for your service to the country."
Who?
And that's Mr. Murray.
Dennis, thanks for calling in, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so
That's my family.
There's some things out there for members of the military and people who have served the country that we can help them take advantage of the opportunities that are available to them. And they got more opportunities than just to collect disability. There's a lot of possibility for members of the military.
Whoever is listening to this program, Bill Murray went to school with me. He was our track man. My family married into his family, and his nieces are my cousins, and his nephew is my cousin. And we have he has a nephew. His name is Tim Blue. And he's in France. He played basketball for Middle Tennessee State, and then he went over to Holland, close to 7 feet tall, tearing them up over there. The brother, I never met him. I never saw him. That's my baby cousin. And he's in France right now, tearing them up, one of the best basketball players in the world. And you can Google him, Tim Blue. That's my family.
Tim Blue.
Tim Blue.
Congratulations on all your success. And we want you to be like the man that I consider to be the best basketball player ever, and that is Mr. Magic Johnson. Because when he got done with the game, he learned how to play in the game of life.
Yeah.
And he learned how to be a person who can transform the community. And it's one thing for us to celebrate individual success. It's yet another thing for us to celebrate people like Magic Johnson, and big ups to LeBron James, who are starting schools and impacting other people's life. So, Mr. Tim Blue, we calling you out on the Hall Street Journal. You got your uncle over here celebrating your success, and your cousin, and everybody's celebrating you. We want to celebrate you for even more than basketball. Congratulations on basketball.
Thank you, sir.
And congratulations on tearing them up. Now, I want you to, in the spirit of Colin Kaepernick, get out here and help the community, because we really, I mean, you may be already doing it. I'm not saying you're not. You might be. The Hall Street Journal is about educate, edify, enlighten, and entertain. And the entertain is really to make the education and enlightenment and edification more palatable. But that's our focus. Terry Coleman said, that's the key. We can't be scared to ask for help. I had a person tell me, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to change rooms. Amen, Terry Coleman. Thank you for that wisdom.
I want to say to all of you out there who's listening to this program, a lot of people don't know Dennis Murray. He still is an instructor. I played tennis with him. I was no good, so I became a baseball player. But Dennis Murray is the one, along with Mr. Williams, who trained Venus and Serena in tennis, and he's still working with a lot of young people. That's what we older people need to learn to do. work with a lot of young people that don't know what direction to go. We need to work with these young people. It ain't always their fault because they don't understand.
Right.
See, we have to take part of the blame. Old folks, take part of the blame because it's not totally on them. It's because you won't tell them what's right. You won't tell them what direction to go. So we got to blame ourselves to a certain extent. And I blame me. If I didn't do it right, I blame me. I don't blame someone else.
Well, we appreciate that. But what we really want, too, is that we get past what we failed to do and figure out how we can succeed in the future. And Mr. Murray has obviously phenomenal experience, phenomenal understanding. If he had anything to do, which he obviously did, with training Venus and Serena, two young African-American women who made our entire people and our nation proud. I'll never forget the first time Venus started tearing them up and the way she had so much poise and dignity and grace and ability and how she handled the spotlight, the international spotlight, and the way they mistreated them and the way they talked about them. But yet she carried herself well and still carries herself well to this day. And don't even get me started with Serena, who was the greatest ever, period, point, dot. Yeah, nobody in the history of the game better. So we thank you, Mr. Murray, for your contribution to the growth and development of them as youth, and see how they now have reached out and they've done exhibitions, and they are giving back to the community, and they are pouring into the lives of the youth. This is what we want to see happen. Mr. Lester Parham in the building. Heather Harrison Burrs. How you doing, Missy? You know, now Heather went to college with me at Howard University, and I remember her father was a man of cloth. So we waiting for your first I know, wait, Heather Harrison Burrs, I think I read something. You got a children's book coming out, and I want to see that. Congratulations on that concept, on that idea. Brother Tree, my good brother from the struggle. I appreciate you for being here. Another good man, and Lee, my sister, Yulitha May Torrance, appreciate you for being here. Yeah. William D. Murray. Yeah. Dennis Murray said, have clearance to explain the Thanksgiving program in Delray. And that's the program where you guys, I remember that you guys were donating food, correct?
I want to say this to all those who are listening. Bill Murray, Dennis Murray, we call him Dennis Murray, has a Feed the Hungry program where 1 year they fed over 5,000 people. And then the next year they fed over 5,000 people. So this thing that we have to sit back and do nothing and watch people starving in these cities, we don't need to continue doing that. We need to come together as a people and feed these brothers and sisters that are hungry, especially the veterans.
Well, one of the things that Jesus said, the final things that he said biblically when he was, before he ascended, was, if you love me, feed my sheep.
Feed my sheep.
He asked, I believe he was speaking to John, he kept saying, do you love me? He said, yes, I love you. He said, feed my sheep. And he said it 3 times, feed my sheep. And I absolutely applaud helping people out on Thanksgiving and feeding them. But at the same time, we realize that people got to eat every day.
Every day.
And I can feed you today, but I can give you a fish today. I feed you today, but if I teach you to fish, I'll feed you forever. So we got to give them a fish today, because Christ understood that. Christ knew sometimes he had to give the people fish today, but at the same time, he was feeding their minds and their souls and their spirit and their understanding so that they could continue and that they could be fed forever, so that they could have food that would never run out, that they could have living water and bread of life. So we have to do both. We've got to deal with the immediate situations that people are dealing with. Sean Utley, thank you for jumping on. Deal with that. Give them, we can give a clothes, and we can have a coat drive, and we can have a turkey for Thanksgiving, and that's great. We have to start helping people to gain the information, the understanding, the frame of mind, and the opportunity that they can be able to move up and out of these situations. I saw a video today, Mr. Sanders, said a person living in poverty, they tested the same group of people who are sugarcane farmers. And sugarcane farmers basically they get their big crop. Their crop gets harvested for the year, like all at once. So these are people who essentially are rich during one part of the year and poor during the other part of the year, and they did IQ tests on the same people during the different parts of the year. And do you realize the results were astounding, that when they were in the poor part of the year, the exact same people averaged a 14-point reduction in their IQ. Their IQ, their mental acumen and ability to make better decisions actually improve as a result of having greater resources. So we need to be able to deal with the immediate situation to help people make better decisions in the short term, and then allow them in that process to gather information and understanding that carries them through for the long term, so we don't always have to have at least not the same people in the soup line. Maybe somebody new, but not the same people forever. So that's what we want to see happen, and we appreciate you, sir, for the work that you did, Mr. Murray, and contributing to the lives of Venus and Serena, and for contributing to the lives of the families there in Delray. We really appreciate that. And what we need to do more with some of the senior members of the community is learn more from them, and we hope that they would also support us and provide more guidance, and rather than be disconnected. Danny Rendon, appreciate you for jumping on board as well.
I want to say that I work with Combined Federal Campaign in the Treasury Department, and in 1 year in the federal sector, we collected over $100 million to help in charitable organizations. So this thing about, well, it's too difficult, I don't think like that. That's not my mindset. Another thing too is, it's not so much what I did, but it's what we are all spokes in the wheel of life, and we can do more than we realize, man. You know, we come together as a people.
Yeah, we can do the most when we work together, and there's so many issues that we need to deal with. I've been watching footage. We look at what happened in Puerto Rico after the hurricane. They had children who lost an entire year of school. American children who are an entire year of school because our government, our collective, we the people, did not properly and fairly respond to the crisis that they had and the needs that they had. Imagine being a child and having a whole community of people and all the kids missing an entire year of school. Where are these campaigns when we're dealing with this type of stuff? And then the moral issues that we've dealt with, separating families from their children, separating parents from their children, children from their parents. And some of the policies that we've dealt with, it's not just monetary. There's other types of capital. There's moral capital. There's so many ways that we can contribute. And the message today is that we need to organize. We need to cooperate. We need to stay awake, stay woke, as they say, and make your contribution, Mr. Sanders. We're getting ready to wrap the show up.
I want to say one more thing. Before
Yes,
I left the Treasury Department, they asked me to be a part of getting money to help people around Thanksgiving, you know, and we collected enough money to buy over 70 turkeys. What if we pooled our money together instead of being stingy? Pool our money together, we can do things that we can't even think about. And now that's a big word. My daughter said, if was a fifth of liquor, we would all be drunk.
Well, I mean, it was one thing to give somebody some turkeys. All them turkeys is ate and gone, right?
They gone.
Why don't you put the money together and make a turkey farm so that you can keep having turkeys?
And another thing,
they some jive turkeys sometimes, because one of the things we not doing is addressing the root of the problem. We addressing the symptoms, but we not addressing the core sickness. And we got to start doing that. We need to start thinking outside the box and doing more collectively. I need to wrap the show up, but what you say, Mr. Sanders?
Okay, now, y'all talked about fishing. I'm a fisherman. I got over 25 reeling rods. If you want to learn, I'll teach you what kind of bait to use, how to bait the hook. If you catch the fish and clean it and cook it, I'll eat it.
There it is. So I mean, here's the bottom. I prefer that than the turkeys we gave away last year, because yesterday's home run did not win today's ball game.
I agree.
Somebody I gave a turkey to last year could be starving to death today.
I agree.
And so we've got to start thinking a little bit beyond, the thing that make us look good, feel good, or sound good.
Yeah.
We want to do what's really good and get to the heart of these matters, really embrace the education, embrace the understanding. And we're getting ready to do a lot of development in Baltimore, us, other people, the community at large. But the only way for us to do it the right way and for people not to be pushed out in the course of gentrification is that you can't just develop the bricks and mortar. You got to do the human development as well. You've got to invest in the people. You've got to connect to the people. You got to have faith in the people. You've got to have faith in their abilities. You got to realize that if you give them a little bit of support now, their IQ going to increase 14 points just because they don't have to stress and worry about where they're going to get the next sandwich. And then you turn around and give them the ability to get as many sandwiches as they ever possibly could need for their family. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to be a part of. I've had my wake-up call. I worked so hard in different areas, and sometimes when you're not doing what God wants you to do, God don't let what you trying to do work, because he don't intend for you to do that. If he tell you to go to Tarshish or go to Nineveh and you go to Tarshish, you might find yourself in the belly of the whale until you realize that God is sovereign and he's supreme, and he gives us our marching instructions for a reason. He endows us with abilities for a reason, and we have to do what we've been directed to do, whether we understand it or whether or not. We have to walk in faith and do what the man upstairs gave us to do. That is the message for you, because that is the message for me. I appreciate y'all for checking out the Hall Street Journal. We're here to educate, edify, enlighten, and entertain. And stay tuned. We have another Facebook page called the Hall Street Journal page. The lessons that you're going to see are not going to be on this Facebook Live. They're going to come from the Hall Street Journal page directly. And let's get some things cracking, and let's be a blessing to one another. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Peace.
See, I always cut the...